For the first 9 years of our marriage, our life was predictable. My wife Laura worked at a small accounting firm across town, and I worked as a project engineer for a construction company. Our schedules were simple. I usually got home around 6, and she arrived maybe 20 or 30 minutes later. Dinner together, a little TV, talking about work, small plans, normal things, nothing dramatic. And for a long time, I thought that meant everything was fine. Then about 5 months ago, Laura started coming home later. At first it was small. One evening she walked in around 8 and said they had an unexpected client meeting. I didn't think much of it. Work can get busy. But then it happened again the next week. And again. Soon it became almost routine. 3 nights a week she wasn't home until 9 or even 10. Whenever I asked about it, she gave simple answers. Quarter-end reports. Extra workload. Our manager wants everything perfect. It sounded believable. Laura had always been responsible at work, but something about the pattern started to bother me. Not because she was working late, because of how she behaved when she came home. Before, she would walk in tired, drop her bag, and immediately start telling me about her day. Now she walked in quietly. Sometimes she went straight to the bathroom with her phone. Sometimes she sat on the couch and started texting someone while barely talking to me. One night I asked casually, "Things really that busy lately?" She shrugged. "Yeah, accounting season." Her answer felt rehearsed, but I pushed the thought away. When you've been married nearly a decade, suspicion doesn't come easily. Trust becomes the default. Still, the small details kept building. Laura started dressing differently for work. Nothing extreme, but she clearly put more effort into it. New perfume, new clothes. She even changed her hairstyle. One evening, while we were having dinner, her phone buzzed on the table. She grabbed it immediately and turned the screen away from me. I pretended not to notice. But a strange feeling settled in my chest. The kind of feeling you try very hard to ignore. 2 weeks later, something happened that made that feeling impossible to ignore. I had a half day at work because of a canceled inspection. So I came home around 4. Laura wasn't there. That was normal. But when I walked into the kitchen, something caught my attention. Her work laptop was sitting open on the counter. That was unusual. Laura was extremely careful with her work equipment. I walked past it and noticed a notification on the screen. An email preview. The sender name said, Daniel. The message preview read, "Same place tonight?" For a moment I just stood there. Maybe it was work-related. Maybe same place meant a meeting. But something about the wording didn't feel professional. When Laura came home later that night, I mentioned it casually. "I saw a message from someone named Daniel on your laptop earlier." She paused for a second before answering. "Oh, just a coworker." Her response came a little too fast. "What was the message about?" I asked. "Just work stuff." She didn't look at me when she said it. That was the moment the first real crack appeared in my trust. Over the next few weeks, I began noticing more things. Laura started locking her phone. She never used to do that. She also began stepping outside to take calls. Short calls, quiet conversations. Whenever I asked who it was, she said, "Work." The strange thing is, she didn't seem nervous. She seemed excited. One Thursday night she told me she had to stay especially late. "Big deadline tomorrow," she said. I nodded and told her to drive safe. But around 8 o'clock, something inside me told me to go out. I didn't really know why. I just grabbed my keys and got in the car. Instead of driving to her office, I drove to the small restaurant district near downtown. Laura had mentioned before that her team sometimes grabbed food there after work. I parked across the street from a small Italian restaurant, and there she was. Laura was sitting at a corner table. Across from her sat a man I had never seen before. They were laughing, not the polite laugh co-workers share, the kind of laugh people have when they feel comfortable together. At one point she reached across the table and touched his hand. My stomach dropped. I sat there watching for nearly 15 minutes. Then the man stood up. They walked outside together. Under the streetlights, I saw something that removed any doubt. He kissed her. Not a quick, awkward kiss. A long, familiar one. I didn't go up to them. I didn't shout. I just drove home. When Laura came back later that night, she looked completely normal. "Tough day," she said while taking off her coat. I looked at her quietly. "Where were you tonight?" She frowned. "At work. I told you." I held her gaze for a moment. Then I said, "I saw you at the restaurant." Her face went pale. For a few seconds she said nothing. Then she sat down slowly. "How long?" she asked. "Long enough." She stared at the floor. "It just happened," she said quietly. That sentence sounded almost identical to every cliché I had ever heard about cheating. I asked the question that mattered most. "How long has it been going on?" She hesitated. 3 months. 3 months. 3 months of late nights. 3 months of lies. 3 months of coming home to me after spending evenings with someone else. The strange part was that I didn't feel the explosion of anger I expected. Instead, I felt something quieter, like the slow collapse of a building that had been cracking for months. "I think you should pack some things," I said. She looked up at me, shocked. "You're just ending everything?" I thought about the late nights, the messages, the rehearsed excuses. "You ended it when you decided lying was easier than telling the truth." Laura didn't argue after that. She packed a suitcase that night. Before leaving, she stopped at the door. "You really won't forgive me?" I looked at her and said, "Forgiveness requires honesty first." Then she walked out, and the silence in the apartment finally made sense. Because sometimes the truth doesn't arrive all at once. Sometimes it shows up slowly, one late night at a time.